How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the live stream. My name is Ben Gotfredson. I head up startup programs for Snowflake. The coolest part of that is I get to work with really fun, interesting startups that are working on crazy problems to tackle and important problems. And one of my favorite startups is sitting with me today, fortunately. We have George from Supergrain, and let's get this thing started. So, George, thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell us who you are, and I want to hear about your kind of career arc running up to Supergrain.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to be here. Um, I'd love to tell you more about my journey. So my background's in data and analytics, and actually, the path to Supergrain starts more than 10 years ago. Uh, I worked at Lyft early on the analytics team, and while we spent a lot of time thinking about data and decision making, a lot of the core stakeholders were on the growth and marketing teams. And so we spent a lot of time figuring out how to get them the data they need to run messaging campaigns, marketing campaigns, engagement campaigns, email, push, SMS. And the challenges that we faced there were, how do you get data into the engagement systems? How do you get data out? And how do you enable them to personalize their campaigns with all the customer data, all the attributes, all the predictive models that we were building on the analytics and data science teams? And that was always really, really hard. Fast forward to last year when we decided to start Supergrain, this problem still hasn't really been solved, as shocking as it sounds. And I think the promise of what we're doing now is bringing the software to Snowflake where customer data already lives. And that solves a lot of the challenges in getting data in and out of Snowflake. So we're really excited to talk about that solution and how it unlocks amazing capabilities for marketers, but also data teams.
Yeah, and that's something we see in the Snowflake world too. So it's cool to see when a partner comes about that's solving a challenge that we see firsthand. And the challenge is it's siloed data, right? And it's like the marketing team not having the access and or the know-how to get what's sitting in the data warehouse for the company, right? So tell me what Supergrain does and what users love about it.
Yeah, at its core, we do a few things. We let marketing teams create customer segments on top of their Snowflake data. We let them orchestrate campaigns, which is email, SMS, push notifications across multiple channels, and send those notifications out. And then we let them analyze and report on the performance of those campaigns. So show the ROI of the activities and the campaigns that they're running. And we do that running all of that workload on top of Snowflake, on top of their own existing Snowflake instance. So they have access to all the data that already lives there. They have access to all the models and all the governance capabilities that come natively with Snowflake.
So that's an interesting theme that is coming up a lot at this summit. And we're seeing more and more smart companies adopt it. And we call it the connected application model. And I think you were calling it that before we even really put a label on it. So like you kind of had it figured out even before we had it figured out. So tell us, like, what do you consider a connected application, and why is it really powerful for companies using it?
Yeah, so by connected applications, we think of it as we are connecting directly to the customer's Snowflake instead of managing our own version of Snowflake where we ingest the customer data. So data doesn't move in our connected application. And I think there's a few things, I think that a few core tenets of what we consider to be connected apps. One is that Snowflake is a source of truth. So by that, whatever data you already have modeled in Snowflake through your transformation processes, through your ETL processes, that is what we query on. Okay. Number two, we're schema agnostic. So many tools that have their own data storage, not only do they copy the data, but they'll also require you to format or model the data, flatten it in a very different way. And that reduces the flexibility of the types of queries and segments that you actually want to be able to run.
Yeah.
Whereas we leverage the data models and the data structures that you've already created that represent the business concepts, business entities of your business. And and that's a core tenet of connected apps. And the third piece is we write data back into the customer Snowflake. So there's no separate ETL pipeline that the data team needs to set up in order to get campaign events, email clicks, email sends, email opens back into Snowflake. That happens automatically with Supergrain. So what that means is end users and marketers can get reporting out of the box immediately.
Do the end users even know Snowflake's in the mix? Are they just staying in this Supergrain UI?
They are just staying in the Supergrain app, yes.
Yeah. Wow. So obviously this is a pretty fundamental shift for the industry. Like, that's one shift. Where else do you see this industry going that you guys are a part of?
Yeah, I think the broader pattern here is there's an architectural shift that's happening in how SaaS applications are being built, especially data-driven applications like customer engagement. And I think the best way to describe it is, in the past, you moved your customer data into a third-party platform, and in this connected app model that Supergrain is part of, we're bringing the software to your data, and the data doesn't move. And there's so many advantages that come with that that I just talked about, and there's a long list that we can go down.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We had the same challenges at Snowflake. Like back in the day, it would be a really tough conversation convincing someone to send over their data and have us, it be trusted within Snowflake. So I know for startups, they encounter that same governance and privacy and security issue. If nothing else, it just adds complexity to them even using your software. So to eliminate some of these barriers is, I think, really important, and I think it opens the door for startups to have more conversations with customers they might have been unable to really sell to prior.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest value propositions of using Supergrain over, I would say, the traditional customer engagement platforms out there is it's just so much easier to get started.
Yeah.
Normally it takes months, even longer, to get your data into the customer engagement tool before you can even start sending emails or running campaigns. And with Snowflake's and this connected app model, because you already have all your customer data there, it's as simple as entering your credentials and getting started, and you can get started. We've had customers that got started in literally hours. And the difference between hours and months, that is just an insane gap when it comes to business value that you're leaving on the table.
Certainly. Who's the typical user?
The marketing team or the growth team is the end user of the product. They're the ones running campaigns. And the data team is involved in the initial setup where they map the data models and tables that are in your Snowflake to business concepts in Supergrain.
Great. I like asking this question. Like, you got started on the Snowflake journey how many months ago?
We've been roughly 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
What do you wish you knew, or what's one thing you wish you knew 6 months ago when you got started on this journey?
I would say one thing, we've always been Snowflake customers. Even we use Snowflake ourselves for analytics. But what we didn't know was how much Snowflake was investing in partners, and especially some of the features and products that are released specifically for application developers building on top of Snowflake. And we're plugged into a lot of these programs now, but in retrospect, we would have wanted to be plugged in even earlier from the very beginning.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I feel like we covered a lot of fun topics, and I'm selfishly obsessed with the Supergrain use case. I just think it's such a cool way to take advantage of the connected application framework. So, George, cannot thank you enough for joining us today, and Snowflake crew, thanks for being a part of it.
Thanks. And if you would like to learn more about Supergrain and what we're building with the connected app model, you can visit us at supergrain.com or reach out to us via LinkedIn, Twitter, and our social channels. Thanks.